I am here with a very special guest today. And even though just before we started recording, I was practicing pronunciation of my guest name, I know that nerves are going to get to me and I'm going to mess it up. So welcome to Jill Leflour. That's very
That's not
British.
bad. That's not bad.
Jill Leflour. More like that, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
all right.
fine.
You're being very, very charitable. I'm still miles off. I have a feeling, but I'm very happy to have a conversation with Jill. The only conversation that we've actually had so far was about on and off for the last 5 days or so on Instagram. When you messaged me, first time you'd ever messaged me, and well, I'm going to read out the message actually, because that'll clue people into the sort of things that we're going to be talking about. So, hi, David. As a gay trans man and Bond fan of 15 years, I wanted to thank you for your work on License to Queer. I've only recently found my way into the Bond fandom. Growing up, being a fan was a thing I couldn't really share with anyone, especially not anyone like me. For 10 years, I've been able to share it with my partner, but out of us two, I'm still the biggest nerd. My husband can definitely relate to that. I'm not going to lie. Your latest queer review on No Time to Die made me very emotional. I may or may not have hidden in the gym's toilets to cry my eyes out. I don't think anyone understood why it was taking me so long to process this film. So thank you for putting it into words. I'm hoping that I'll finally be able to get over it now. In the meantime, I'll be filling the void with OOQ fan fiction. Take care, Jill. Right, so lots to unpack there, Jill.
Yep.
Where do you want to start?
I mean, I don't know. We can start from the start, or we can start from No Time to Die, whichever.
Start with No Time to Die then. Tell me, what did you feel? Clearly I had a very strong emotional reaction to No Time to Die. Sounds like you did as well.
Yeah, and it's evolved over the course of many viewings, because I feel like I've pretty much single-handedly financed the next one because I've seen it so many times in the cinema. So the first time I saw it was at the premiere at the Royal Albert Hall, which does sound like a flex, but
so you actually went to the premiere, didn't you?
Yeah, I did go there, and I also was at the Spectre premiere back in 2015. Actually.
Wow.
Anyway, so yeah, when I saw it the first time, I very much had mixed feelings about the film, and I think the fact that I saw it at the premiere specifically did have an influence on that, because like the expectations going in were like sky high. I had tickets to the original premiere like a year and a half before back in France that got cancelled like 2 weeks before. I was crushed. And yeah, I came in just like for Craig's latest movie. Craig's my Bond. Like you can see the
I can see
the Royale poster behind me, and it's been there for 15 years. So
that is the best poster of the entire Craig era. I used to have that poster on my classroom wall, because I don't know if you know, I'm a teacher, and that used to be the poster on like the stock cupboard door. Yeah, yes. Amazing.
Yes. I think, yeah. So like I came in for this last film knowing it would be the last one, and at the premiere with like just all the cast and crew there and surrounded by Bond fans. So I was, expectations were really high, and I think mostly the ending, but also the overall premiere experience, because it wasn't quite how I pictured it. It's like it was very much like get on the red carpet, like get in. You couldn't really hang around the stage. You couldn't really like wait for like crew and cast members to come in. So I did completely miss Daniel. Actually, I came in. It was Naomi Harris and Rami Malek taking pictures with the press, and they weren't like you couldn't even like say hi or anything. They were just like completely separated from the people, from the pleb. So this and well, the end, because I mean it ends with the end. It left me feeling like that's it. Like this is like the last 15 years of of my life, like obsessing over this stuff,
Yeah.
and then that's how it's gonna end. But as I saw it more, especially from like second, third viewings onwards, I started appreciating a lot more. And I think it's because when you know what's coming, you enjoy the parts leading up to it a lot more.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that I had very negative feelings about on my first viewing, namely the whole Mathilde plot and the whole Madeleine plot, actually, I actually kind of enjoy now. And I really didn't on the first viewing. There's stuff I still don't like. A lot of stuff I still don't like. But this I've kind of changed my mind about. I think probably initially going in, Madeleine was still riding on the negative
Yeah.
image I had coming from Spectre.
Yeah.
Because I only saw Spectre twice at the premiere 2 days after, and I haven't seen it since 2015. So it was
like
the
dead to you. That is like,
yeah.
I can't deal with the whole trauma.
Yeah, I can't deal with this film.
No.
I'm gonna watch it again. I want to do like my partner and I want to do a Bond marathon over the Christmas holidays. So
Yeah,
it's gonna I'm gonna see it again. Maybe maybe not skip it. But yeah, and I guess like one of the reasons I didn't like apart from the fact that I didn't like Madeleine and Spectre, and so I didn't like her coming in this one. The whole daughter plot, that's in fiction, it's probably the number one trope I hate the most, when the two like main characters in the romance end up having a child, and then it's either the child continuing the story or like the child becomes a very focus point of the story.
Yeah.
And I guess that's probably linked to like queer stuff, right? When you're like when you've never quite considered that you would ever have children of your own.
I hate it. I hate it as well, because it is that and this is why it took me I say ages. I wrote the queer review No Time to Die quite quickly, but I had those thoughts going around in my head ever since when I first saw it. And I kind of going into it, I thought, how am I going to feel if James Bond has a child? Because I hate that trope as well, because it is that whole, you can only carry on through somebody else, and it's okay to die, then your life is over. You've sort of and as a queer person who's probably never going to have children of my own, that always really grates with me. So is that part of do you reckon that's part of the reason why it always grates with you?
Oh yeah, I think so. I mean, I never quite analyzed it, but it's been this way since I was a little child. Like I've always hated anytime like main characters would just end up having a child and the next books would be about the child or something. I just couldn't deal with that. And it's, I mean, like looking back, it's very obviously linked to that, I think.
It's such a heteronormative thing, it's the whole, get married, have kids, die.
Yeah. I mean, and there's this added thing that as a trans man, like even just the idea of like carrying your own child. I mean, some guys deal with that just fine, but it's just always been like a massive source of anxiety for me. Way before I realized I was trans, I was like, nope, there's no way I'm doing that ever.
Yeah.
So I think that plays into it as well.
Absolutely. So as a trans Bond fan, are there any points where you felt like you didn't fit within the Bond community? Because I've talked about this quite recently on some other people's podcasts and things, and I've started to write about this really, but I haven't really dealt with it head on. But there was a brief period in my life where I thought Bond isn't for me. I don't see myself in Bond in these films and books and whatever. Did you ever have that point as well?
Well, with regards to the fandom, I'd say yes, because I think the reason why I never quite found my way into it was because the fandom from afar looks like a bunch of middle-aged white guys, like basically, really. And I mean, I think in France it's pretty much only that, because that's the people I saw at the Spectre premiere in Paris. It was that kind of people, right? No one else, literally. And so I think that's why I also like kind of kept myself from engaging with the fandom as well, because I didn't want to engage with these people. I didn't want to engage with people who would like be like, oh, like M's a woman now, or oh no, we got a female 007, or like I just yeah, I didn't want to waste my time. So the
And
only
they,
person I sorry.
no, no, I was going to say, and that you're right. Those are the dominant voices in Bond fandom. It's exactly the same here in the, obviously you are in the UK right now, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's, you know, you probably experienced that while you're here.
Yeah.
And very much in America as well, it seems to be the case. And you're right, it
Mhm.
tends to be straight, cisgendered, middle-aged. Hey, I'm not that far off myself, but,
Sorry.
but white men, and they tend to dominate, and because they dominate the discourse, it's like there are lots of other people, and that's part of the reason I started License to Queer, because I wanted those voices to be heard more. Because it just seemed that the typical Bond fan was sort of stealing all the oxygen out of the room, really.
Yes, yes, and funny enough, I mean, I found you and also Dr. Lisa
Oh
Funnell's
yeah,
work through Calvin Dyson's
yeah,
YouTube channel, and he's
yeah.
very much like a random white guy, right? But I don't know if you watch his stuff, but he's got
I do,
like
yeah.
quite a progressive view on stuff in general.
Yeah, in fact, I
Um,
think there were two queer Bond fans, again, both white, cisgendered gay men, and that's why License to Queer, I want it to be more than that, really. But you know, Mark O'Connell, who wrote a book about his childhood experiences and coming out and that sort of thing, and then Calvin Dyson, and actually Calvin contributed with one of the pieces I wrote about GoldenEye, the video game, when
oh, amazing! Yeah, he's a
and
massive fan of this one, right?
we keep meaning to find some kind of more sort of substantial collaboration or something like that. But yeah, no, I'm a big fan of his work. Yeah.
Yeah, but so that's like watching his videos, that's when I realized like not everyone has the same opinions
Mm,
about Bond films. And that was quite a revelation because yeah, for I mean 15 years it was just me, then my partner, my uncle a little bit, but he's a lot older, like he's like
yeah.
really into like Roger Moore and stuff. But he was the only one until like basically this year to whom I could chat about really nerdy Bond stuff. Um, so yeah, it's the fandom has felt a little bit lonely, but I've never felt like the work itself was missing queer stuff because I think I'm like you, right? I kind of read between the lines to see what I want to get out of it. And
Absolutely.
for when I was a kid, and I think that's the reason why I got like sucked into it so hard with Casino Royale, because that's the first one I saw at the cinema. I was 9 when my dad took me to see it, and I think it's because I saw Bond's character as this like effortlessly cool, like oozing the kind of masculinity I really wanted for myself, but I thought I never
Mm.
could have because I didn't know trans was a thing. Like, and it's just like it was just this like kind of remote fantasy kind of kept me going for years when I thought like, I can't be like that, but then I've got this other character that I can just like have for like emotional support, or whatever. Like it's
I
and I
think
this
I
yeah,
think
go ahead.
Daniel Craig does that. It's interesting what you said about it's almost like effortless masculinity, because obviously, and some people don't like this, but Daniel Craig's Bond is far, you know, it's far more psychological. You know, he's got an inner life, but at the same time, he does have that, especially in Casino Royale, he has that swagger to him at the same time. And even though he's ostensibly a straight cisgendered guy, it's kind of like I think part of the appeal for me is I almost want to try and emulate that effortlessness. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's a gay trans thing or if it's just a gay thing. But like when you see someone who's like so cool, I'm confused between two things. I'm like, do I want to be him or do I
Mm,
want to be with him?
yeah.
And definitely Daniel in Casino Royale was like 9-year-old me was like, so yeah.
Yeah, I was interviewed by a journalist recently who kind of brought that up, and he said, did you want to be more with Bond or did you want to be Bond? And I ended up coming down, obviously it's a bit of both, but for me, it's more being Bond than with Bond. But I suppose everyone's. Where would you say you're 50-50?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. But I mean, I'm trying really hard to emulate that, but it's like I want to say I wanted to grow up to be Bond, and I grew up to be Q because I'm a nerd, like a data scientist, like spend my life in front of a computer screen. So I'm, yeah.
Definitely nothing wrong with wanting to be Q.
I didn't want to. I just ended up as Q.
So you write double OQ fan fiction, that's right, isn't it? I keep meaning to get
Yeah.
more into this.
It's I haven't read a lot of it actually, because writing, it's also been a thing that I've been doing on my own without sharing it with anyone for years and years, until very recently. But yeah, like after watching No Time to Die for I think it was the 5th time. Oh God, I'm hopeless. I I just kept thinking about, those 2 lines that so M's line, that's like, oh, shut up Q, I know he's staying with you.
Staying with you, yeah.
And Q's line, can I please have one nice evening
Before the world explodes? Yeah.
And I kept going in my head, like, what's that scene that we're missing between the scene where Moneypenny and Bond are at Q's and the scene after that where they're in M's office? And so I was like, there's stuff to be said here. There's stuff to be done here. And so yeah, I had this idea, like it went, like I mulled over it for a while, and then I started writing it, and it ended up being basically like Bond coming back to Q's late in the night, and realizing that Q's date stood him up, and so they end up having dinner instead. It's very low key, like very like understated, but
I need to
yeah.
read this, Jill. I need to read this. And if you ever if you want it published anywhere, then I am more than happy to host it on the website.
Well, I mean, if you want to read it, it's on fanfiction.net.
Is it in English or French? Because my GCSE it's in French.
No, it's both. I've got an English version up.
There you go. I was going to say I might have to rely on Google Translate in parts at least.
No, but yeah, I'm still waiting on an archive of our own account, like AO3. That's like the main fanfiction site that people use for WQ especially.
Yeah.
But I've put it on fanfiction.net in the meantime.
Oh wow.
It's called One Nice Evening Before the World Explodes.
Oh, one nice. I'm writing that down. One.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's very short, like not much happens, but yeah, it felt needed, like it conjured some feelings about the film.
It's so interesting that you went for that narrative gap, and so the first time I saw the film, that was one of those things which just kept going around in my head. I was like, and no one on Twitter or Instagram seems discussing that, and I'm like,
it's like so big.
This is why queer points of view are so valuable, because I'm like, we see things sometimes which are like, why have you never seen this? Why have you never seen it in these terms? People just, you see the same opinions trotted out on social media about Bond and the same kind of observations. And you just like, I just get the feeling sometimes it's like, you're wide of the mark. That's not what this means. This is what this means.
Yeah. And it's that, and the first time I saw the film, also like one of the parallels that really jumped at me, and you touch on that on your queer review, is the scene of like Leiter's death, as compared to Vesper's in Casino. And I've seen Casino Royale like 40 times, so like that, I mean, like it was like really quite striking to me how it's shot the exact same way. And I've cut the shots, like put them side by side. The cinematography is the exact same, like the color grading is the same. Like if you zoom out, you can't see the difference between the 2 scenes. It's the same succession, oh god, that's a complicated word, of shots. Like it's like Bond and Leiter holding, like Bond's like holding Leiter's head and he was holding Vesper's hands, and then it's the shot where they float away, and then Bond just losing air and then like piecing out. And yeah, and I was like, there's no way this wasn't intentional. Like, there's no way you're not implying something there. Like,
No, no, no. It can't have been an accident, or if it was, it was done intentionally, I think, or at the very least subconsciously, that the director wanted to make us remember a similar time that Bond has lost someone he's incredibly close to. Yeah, I think
yeah,
you're
I
right.
took that as visual confirmation that Bond is bisexual.
Yeah, and I don't know why anyone is still debating this, to be perfectly honest. I mean, aside from, bisexual being an identity label and whatever, but it's, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's not even up for debate anymore as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you.
So you said that you were almost crying. I know you said you were almost crying in the gym. Is that
Oh
right?
yeah,
When you
yeah,
originally...
yeah.
So obviously, I don't want to, upset you again, because I've already done it once. But I mean, it's not the first time someone said they've found something I've written quite emotional, but it is the first time someone says they've cried their eyes out, had to hide in the gym toilets to cry their eyes out. So I'm fascinated to learn why that was the case.
Yeah, and it's funny because I reread, well, I read the piece because I listened to it on a like podcast format when I was at the gym.
Mm-hmm.
And I reread it, and rereading it, I started like tearing up again. And I was like, oh God.
Oh my
I
God.
remember all the feels. And yeah, so I mean, yeah, listen to it at the gym. Like I just basically I got to the gym. I was quite excited to listen to it because I only listen to podcasts at the gym. So I was quite excited to get to the gym and listen to it. And got on a treadmill to warm up. And within 10 minutes, I was already like just tearing up, and I was like, oh, there's no way I'm doing this. So I hid in the toilet like 10 minutes, trying to pretend everything was fine. And then I just like booked it out and listened to the rest of it at home, just like crying in my kitchen.
Oh God. I mean, a part of me wants to say sorry, but at the same time, I love a really good cry. It always
Yeah,
makes me always makes me feel better. So I'm not going to apologize.
yeah,
I don't think.
no, it was great. It was great. Like I'd been like processing these feelings from the film for like I don't know how long it's been now, 2 months.
Yeah, something like that.
More than that, actually. Wow, has it been so long ago already?
So were there any parts in particular? Because I know it was one of the longer. They just keep getting longer and longer, the things that I write.
That's
so,
perfect. Keep going. Don't stop.
Thank you. Look, what have you unleashed now? The next one will be even more. But were there any bits in particular, or was it just was it because it was bringing back the ending? Because that's sort of how I wanted to start with the ending. So yeah,
no, it was definitely the part on Bond that hit me the hardest. It's the one where I full on cried, like paused it after this one, and I was like, yeah. And I thought about it, and I think it's like two things. The part about Bond as a myth, and not just like because you made the particular, like you linked into like Heracles and like Greek mythology in general, and I think it also resonated in the sense that Bond to me has kind of been a mythological presence in my life, like in general. And I think like one of the things from my childhood in relation to that is from very early on, from basically like 2006 when I saw Casino for the first time, I kind of created this persona for myself that I named Jill Bond, lol. And in what I now see was like a way to try and keep my gender dysphoria at arm's length. So basically it was like this, basically it was James Bond, but it was me, and he was 9 and it was a guy, and I was just pretending to be him. Like, yeah.
A persona sort of thing.
Yeah. It's like, because me and my brother were really into like kind of role playing as a kid, like not like Dungeons and Dragons, but just like make up scenarios, and he'd play every single character, and I'd play the hero. Like he'd play all the supports cast and the villain and everything. I'd just be the hero. And like we'd do like these like missions and stuff where I would like act out as Jill Bond, and yeah, I guess that circles back also to that thing you said about Bond's retirement being a thing like in which he was pretending to be someone he's not, and like pretending to be this character was actually me being me, and living my normal life was me pretending to be someone I'm not.
Wow.
And I think that's when like I really like started crying that bit in your review, and it continues with like you do like when you touch on like a little bit heavier stuff like suicidal ideation and stuff. I can't say that I've personally ever like full on experienced that, but that obviously was quite like some quite low points.
Yeah.
Especially like middle school, back when I didn't know that being trans was a thing, and I just thought I was kind of strange, and I didn't think it would ever get better. And yeah, there was points at that time where I really wish hadn't been born, because I was born a girl and I didn't like that at all. And that's when I came back to that like kind of Jill Bond character around like 13 years old, a few years after, and that's also when I started the first draft of what eventually became the novel I worked on this year. And it was because it was initially like about this character named Jill Bond. It was basically like the two things I liked at the time: GoldenEye, Twilight. Boom, I made it. I mashed them up into a novel. But yeah, it was kind of like a way to process all these like gender feels.
Can I just say, I'm just, I'm like sitting here going, I know, as coming out as gay is not the same as coming out as trans, and you've come out as gay as well. But at the same time, I'm just because I know how I cried a lot while I was writing that queer review. To be honest, I found it really cathartic, but also very upsetting in some parts, and I had to leave it alone and come back to it a few days later. And there's been a few other pieces like that, but that I've done, but especially that one. So I just like to thank you for kind of sharing that, really, because I believe that we do need to be quite open about our emotions to kind of help other people as well. And I think people who might be listening to your story there, and I know we've only really scratched the surface, but people might be listening to that and then go, oh, okay. So some people might take solace from that. So I don't know to upset you too much, but
no, it's fine. It's fine. I don't mind really talking about it, and thank you for putting it out there. What you wrote, because
I just think
no,
go on.
No, I was gonna say, like, if writing it was cathartic for you, it was, I guess, quite cathartic to read as well. And the very end, like, of the first part, when you touch on that, basically like Bond chooses to die rather than living an empty life, and that's really the part where I was like full on crying, and I mean, it's true, like I'd rather die than go back in the closet ever.
Yeah, same.
So yeah, that's when I had to pause and be like, oh my god.
So are we? This is probably far too reductive, but are you almost saying that Jill Bond, and I love this, I love that idea, that Jill Bond was sort of a coping mechanism in a way, kind of imagining what you could what sort of life you could lead?
Yeah, no, yeah, 100%. It was basically me like pretending I was a guy in a space that felt safe when I didn't know that was even an option, really, because I was never discouraged or anything. I never like came out and then got shoved back in the closet by like parents or anything. It's just I didn't know it was a thing. I'm from like very rural town in Normandy. Like no one could really like understand what was going on in my head, right? So Yeah, there was these safe ways, and it's not just Bond, but Bond was a big thing. But every character I've ever played when I was role playing with my brother, or every character I've ever played in a video game, like I've always picked a male character. I've always like tried to like vicariously live through like media and stuff. And like when the Hunger Games and stuff like that came out, I just couldn't relate to the like strong female character. Everyone would be like, "Oh, you're gonna love this!" Like the main character is a tomboy, and I was like, "Nah, fuck that!" Like, no, I just let me read like Alex Rider and that kind of stuff. Like that was what I was into, not like strong female characters.
And but
No hate on those. It was just not
it's
for me.
really interesting what you say about strong female characters, because there's another there's a big contributor to License to Queer, Sam Rogers, who's written quite a lot about this, and he's like me, he's a cisgendered gay man, but there's a stereotype that cisgendered gay men tend to identify with strong female characters, which I write about in the Queer Review,
Yeah.
with Paloma in particular. But that's not the case if you're a transgender gay man. So
I guess it depends. To be fair,
yeah.
I think there's a lot of like quite feminine trans gay men, and who would definitely probably relate to female characters more.
Yeah.
Which adds a layer of complexity, because like
Yeah.
if you're like feminine but you're trans masculine, then like
I know.
it's even harder for anyone to take you seriously, I think. And yeah, no, I'm definitely like it's funny because when I was younger, I would really reject anything even remotely associated with like femininity. Like I'd reject like female characters, I'd reject like everything, like clothing, like activities. I just couldn't like do it. And now that I've come out and like realized, and I guess I'm much more comfortable with my
Yeah.
gender, I've accepted that my favorite color is pink or that kind of stuff. I watch Gossip Girl, like I don't mind it anymore. If because I don't know, I felt like I couldn't do it when people saw me as a girl. I felt like I had to be as masculine as possible.
Right.
I don't feel so compelled to do that anymore.
No.
And it's a lot less pressure to just be able to enjoy what you enjoy, without questioning like, oh, is this gonna make me look like a girl? Or
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even within, I think probably there was a time in my life when I kind of did the whole trying to cover up being gay thing, and then went kind of like only, I don't like musicals. I don't, anything vaguely. I wouldn't wear pink. Whereas I'm almost now kind of compensating for that by basically, I realized the other day, as I was going through my wardrobe, that I have about five pink shirts. I was like, how many pink shirts does one man require, really? It's a fashion statement. No, you can never have enough pink shirts. So I think the dominant color of my wardrobe now is pink, to be perfectly honest. Whereas, prior to coming out, that would never have been an option.
Yeah, really, no, I fully get that. I wear a lot more pink now than I did before I came out.
I almost have a problem with wearing dull colors. So I noticed we're both wearing, obviously, very
bright Christmas,
interesting Christmas jumpers today. But it was just before we started recording, you said that you were, and which is so weird because I thought exactly the same thing. You thought you might wear the navy blue sunspell polo from Casino Royale. Yeah.
And I mean, I am wearing it underneath.
Oh, you are?
Really see it. Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Seriously, I almost wore mine today, but this jumper is so thick by itself that I thought I can't wear anything under here. But no, that is
beautiful.
Thanks. So if you don't mind kind of sharing a bit, because when did you come out for the first time?
So I came out to pretty much everyone within like a month of realizing I was trans. So that was
wow.
2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. So summer 2019, basically.
Wow.
It really hit me like a ton of bricks because I moved to London for a master's degree, and I started hanging out with a group of queer people. I skateboard a lot, so I ended up with this like queer skate group in London, and there was a lot of trans people, especially trans masculine people, which I literally never heard of before at all. And then like over the course of the year, I just started like realizing like, oh God, like that's me. And yeah, at the end of the year, I was like, well,
Wow.
okay. At the end of school year, so it's around June, I came out to my partner and my family next month, and then everyone's school like before school started again, in September, and never looked back.
I mean, that's incredible. I didn't, sorry, I in my head, I'd sort of worked out a different time scale from what you just said about when you were in middle school and you were having a really tough time then. But this is really recent, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I mean, back when I was in middle school and like gender feels were getting horrible because I'm puberty and stuff. That's never a great time for trans people. I did like full on like write a letter to my mom saying like I hate having been born a girl. Like it's the worst thing in my life. And she did take me to a psychologist. But he never said the word gender dysphoria ever.
Really?
Like I think, to be honest, I don't think he was like actively trying to like not trans me. I think he was just like unaware.
He
Like
didn't
he's
know.
just like, no, I think he just didn't know because like I said, like small town, like Normandy, and he never said it to me, never said it to my parents. And it's this thing like, when there's something in your life that you know that you can't change, and that you literally don't know that you have options to change it. Like I was just not gonna let it like prevent me from enjoying life. I would just be like, well, okay, like I feel this way about my gender, my body, whatever, but there's nothing I can do about it. So I'm just gonna carry on living my life. It's not gonna prevent me from being happy. It's not gonna prevent me from doing what I want to do. It's just there. And so that's how I dealt with it basically until like I met other people like me, and I realized like, well, actually I do have options that I didn't know about. And yeah, and it all like came like rushing back, and I was like, oh God, I got to do something about it now. And I, yeah, it didn't wait at all.
That's incredibly inspirational because I mean, obviously looking back, I realize I was traumatized by growing up gay, as you know, many queer people do. But at the same time, I did, you know, it wasn't all misery. I did try to make the best of it. I just realized in hindsight, I was having to put all that energy into kind of pretending I was happier than I was. And you know, since coming out, you know, for the first time more than 10 years ago, I've kind of like living my best life. Is that sort
Yeah.
of how you feel in the last couple of years?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I can do so much stuff I thought I'd never do. And I guess the main thing is I can now, like, it's realistic for me to now work towards a body that I can actually get now. Because I always thought, well, I'd be stuck like being, I used to like play rugby and stuff. I've always been like quite like tough, but I never thought like okay, that's gonna sound really vain, but that, you know that image of Daniel coming out of the water in
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
L'Oreal, right? When I was a kid, I was like, I want to be like this when I grow up. And I was like, obviously that's never gonna happen. And now actually, well, actually it can happen, and I can absolutely like work towards this. And yeah, I've been able to like direct a lot of energy into changing stuff that I can change, when I thought it was just like hopeless before.
You aren't the
Um,
only person who, it's not vain at all, by the way.
I mean, it
But
kind of is. It's fine. I
no,
accept that. I'm a
no,
little
it's
vain.
not. It's totally not. I didn't start doing any form of exercise until my early 20s. So I used to be at school. I was quite overweight, and I've written something about this a while back. But you know, Daniel Craig coming out the ocean, I don't look like that with in a pair of skimpy trunks, I'm afraid to say, because I love cake too much. So, and although I do go to the gym, it's somewhat infrequent, if I'm honest. I do lots of running, but that scene did sort of encourage me to start running, and that kind of started helping with my mental health a bit as well. So, and there's quite a few other people who've said that, you know, they've taken Daniel Craig as a fitness inspiration. So I don't think it's vain at all.
Well, cheers. But yeah, I think no, I think it did inspire a lot of people because, like, I mean, goddamn, like, how can you see that? It's either like you just wallow in your sofa and be like, no, well, that's never gonna happen, or
So I
you
presume
just
you don't get to eat a lot of cake. looking the way you do?
Well, no. It depends. It depends. Like there's periods, right? Like there's times where you bulk when you eat a lot. It's not
Right.
usually cake, but you can like swing in some cake in that time. I've been cutting for like 5 4 5 months, and yeah, it hasn't been a lot of cake. Unfortunately. I did okay, that's really vain now. I did buy like clothes replica of the Casino Royale swimming trunks. And that's like my goal for next summer is to look like something in this.
I do have a pair of those. But the
The
only
real
person,
ones are like the
yeah,
Amazon
the real
kind
ones.
of.
The only person who has ever seen me in them is my husband. So they will not be appearing on Instagram anytime soon.
Well, well, that's really cool that you got the real ones, because I mean they're like out of everywhere. Right? I did look for them really hard
Well, I say
a
I
while
say
back,
they're the
but
real ones. They are a sort of reproduction, but they're very, very
they're very
close
close. Yeah,
in more
yeah,
ways than one. Close fitting as well. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's oh yeah. Well, speaking of that, like this, yeah, that's kind of like one anxiety I do still have about like that is obviously being a trans man. Like there's nothing there, right? And it's like, do I want that kind of attention
Right.
um at the beach? I don't know, right? We'll see. We'll see. Maybe I will. I mean,
Hey,
I care about.
even cisgendered men, if the water's cold, there's no.
I'm just gonna say it's cold, even though it's like Greece and it's like 35 degrees. But yeah, fair. No, it's just cold. But yeah, no, I mean, I care. To be fair, I care about this stuff less and less as time goes on. So I'll probably won't care that much.
No, I honestly, you shouldn't care. I know it doesn't make any difference someone else saying it, but you really shouldn't care about that. No. I'm just interested as well about you mentioned this novel. Just to go back to that for a second. So I know I brought this up on Instagram, and you said that I'd have to learn French to be properly this time to be able
Yeah.
to read this one. Is this one ever going to see the light of day?
I'm hoping. I'm hoping it will. Because I mean I've been writing since I was a kid. Like the first thing I wrote was I was too young to actually know how to use the computer. So I dictated to my mom who typed it on the computer. I was like 6. It was Legend of Zelda fan fiction, by the way.
Oh my God,
Um,
that is like one of the cutest things I've ever heard. Which legend? I'm a big Legend of Zelda fan. Which iteration of it was it? Which game
it
was it
was it
based
was
on?
one of the N64 ones.
Majora's
Probably
Mask?
yeah, probably. But it
Yeah,
was
that's
like
my
mostly like
favorite.
just me putting Link somewhere and having him do stuff. That was the gist of it. But yeah, I mean, I'm going back to novel. I'm hoping it's gonna end up somewhere. I know it's not quite ready yet, because I wrote the first draft over the course of this year. Like the first draft of the new version, because I wrote a first draft, really big air quotes there, when I was in middle school. Um, and I and that's what triggered me to actually rewrite it this year, because back in January last year, I just was trolling through the files on my computer and I stumbled upon that. And I was like, oh, okay, let's start reading. And then I started reading, and the cringe was like
Oh,
really high, but
off the
also I was
scale.
kind of obsessed. Like I just couldn't stop like scrolling through the thing. And I read the whole thing in like one sitting. Yeah, I stopped. It was like 2 a.m. and I was like, oh God, I haven't eaten. I've just been reading this like really cringe stuff I wrote 15 years ago. And but I was like, actually, that's not bad. And actually, there's something going on here, and I could turn this into something cool now. And that's what I did. So yeah, it's just a first draft, so it's obviously like not ready at all. And I did like have my partner read it, my older brother as well. Who's been placating all my like scenarios and like role play stuff for years. So
Can you give
um,
us a sneak preview of the go and give us a mini synopsis of the story?
yeah. So it's about a 16-year-old ex-spy for the French DGSE, who's trying to get away from the world of espionage, but the ghost of a failed mission catch up to him. Um, and you're gonna have to read it to know what
Okay,
actually
yeah,
what that means.
I'm hooked already. But I
Um,
mean, I love any story. I think this is partly why I love the Craig films so much, is because it's got that whole haunted by your past thing, which is there in Bond generally anyway. I think he's
yeah.
a really good feature of spy fiction. So that's kind of the crux of the story. The past coming back to. There's something very queer about that, isn't there, as well?
Yeah.
The past coming back to haunt you.
I did mention that originally it was basically because I liked GoldenEye and I liked Twilight, so I took the plot of GoldenEye, added some romance boom, and that was the thing. And so yeah, I mean, past like there's a lot of queer stuff going on in this book. Like main character is bisexual. There's a few like other queer characters. There's a gay guy. There's an ace. Gender non-conforming girl. Because you need that in spy novels. Like you got none of that. Like
it's
like
bizarre that spy.
yeah, I
You know,
know.
I mean, I find it quite inspiring that the real life MI6, the real M posts on Twitter all the time about, you know, they support you know, their transgender colleagues, they support their
Does
gay.
he?
Yeah, yeah. So MI6 put up the transgender flag on transgender day of
What?
week of awareness. Yeah, they
Damn.
do. Yeah, yeah. There's actually there's a really nice piece on the License to Queer site. It's one of my favorite pieces, actually, written by a trans contributor, and she wrote a story imagining what it would be like if one of the existing characters in Bond transition.
Oh, I think I read this one.
Yeah,
Yes, it was really good. It was really good.
I love it. I love it so much. And I used as the image that shot from MI6 where they put the transgender flag up each year. So
That's
yeah.
beautiful. I don't think the French DGSE would ever do that.
Oh
Ever.
really?
I know it's not. I mean, it's like very army, very
Oh, is
like
it?
boys club kind of
Oh right.
moods. And
I mean, that's a, we've got to have a follow-up conversation at some time, Jill. I know that I've already taken up about an hour of your time here, but honestly, endlessly fascinating. And you know, I'd love to know more about the French Secret Service in comparison. I suppose my final question, and by all means, ask me anything you like, but my final question is kind of like partners and how they deal with our Bond obsession. So my husband is very tolerant. You might be able to see behind me. I've got my License to Queer logo
yeah,
by
I
Ruben
noticed.
Wakeman. He designed that. Bless him, love him to pieces. I've got a Living Daylights poster, but there's also, it's fighting for space with Disney stuff and X-Men and all that kind of stuff. So our house is basically like a teenager's bedroom,
Yeah.
because it's just got all of our favorite fan stuff. But you know, my husband's quite tolerant of my Bond obsession. How's your partner get on with that?
Yeah, he's very good. He's very chill about it. And actually when we first got together 10 years ago, so high school.
Wow, so you've
Like
been together since high school.
yeah.
Amazing.
When we first got together, we gave each other a list of films that we wanted the other to see. And so he gave me a list of like Kubrick, like Tarantino movies, like quite serious stuff. And I just told him like, watch all the James Bond films. Just you have to watch them all.
Deal
And he,
breaker.
yeah, absolutely. And I was like, you got to, like, there's no way we're doing this if you don't watch the movies. And he did, and he actually found out that he quite like enjoyed them too. Thank God, because I don't think I don't know how he would have survived the next 10 years otherwise. But yeah, no, he's like quite into it. We went to the Spectre premiere together in 2015. I was just 18. And he actually, so the setup was like there was a red carpet outside of the Grand Rex, which is like a old French cinema where they have, it's the only cinema that ever has premieres. And so there was like kind of like barriers around the red carpet, and people would just master like on the barriers, like waiting for the cast to come in. And so the cast started coming in, but we were on the third row of people, so we couldn't actually see what was going on. And I had my DVD of Casino Royale. Actually, I got it here. I can show you.
I love that you've got it to hand.
Yeah, because I mean, I've packed up my stuff because I'm going to bring it back to London. So I wanted Daniel to sign it, and but I was on the third row, so there was no way that this was gonna happen. But he carried me on his shoulders for 20 minutes. He just broke his back literally for me, so that I could like hand my DVD over to Daniel over
Oh
the
my
3
gosh,
rows of people, and it worked.
he is a keeper.
I know, I
No wonder
know.
you're still together. Oh
I
my
think he
gosh.
hated me for like a week afterwards because his back was just like done. But yeah.
Oh, that is such a heartwarming note to end on. So thank you so much for your time, Jill. I'm sure we are going to speak again in future. The first thing I'm going to do tomorrow is I'm going to look up your OOQ fanfic, and
Oh,
if
God.
you're okay with me posting a link to it on the website,
Yeah,
then
absolutely.
I'll definitely do that, and I'm sure we'll talk in future, and maybe one day we might even meet face to face when the world has stopped being as crazy as it is at the moment.
It is. Do you live in London or?
I don't know. We live about it's about an hour and a half by train away from London. We're in the Midlands. Yeah.
Okay.
What's
Okay.
it
Well,
like for you? You playing? Did you say you were planning to go back home over
well,
Christmas?
yeah. I mean, I went back home a bit earlier because of, well, I mean, they said they would make it harder for people coming from the UK back to France. So I moved my train a week ahead so that I could go back home. So
Oh,
that's my
are you
childhood
actually in
bedroom
France
right here.
now?
Yeah. Like you can see all my James
Oh,
Bond stuff. Like that's a Casino Royale poster. Well, I took off. I had like a Spectre and a Skyfall
I'm
poster.
sure I can see James Bond by the door as well. I'm sure I just saw the
Yeah,
blue
so
Your Eyes
like
Only and
those
Live and Let
tiny
Die.
ones in the
Die Young.
back,
Yeah.
that's like metal plates that my uncle gifted me for Christmas, and they're like 35 years old. Um, like my uncle, the Bond fan, and he got me these like as a Christmas present. So I was just like, probably one of the best things I've ever
Oh
gotten
yeah,
ever. So
absolutely.
yeah.
No, so I didn't realize that you'd actually gone back to France already. I was a bit worried actually, because when you messaged and you were saying, "Oh, I'm planning to go back to France," I thought, "Oh my gosh, are they going to allow you back in?" But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we'll see if I can make it back.
Well,
Fingers
when you're back in
crossed.
the UK, I'm planning to head back. I'm planning to meet some people in London in the new year. Actually, people who've kind of contributed to License to Queer and stuff. So maybe we might bump it. Are you in university in London itself?
I'm working now, and I'm
Oh,
working in London.
yeah.
So
Sorry. Yeah. So sorry. You're in.
that's fine.
You did your masters, didn't you? And then you're in IT at the moment. The real life Q.
Yeah, real life Q, very much data science, very much 5 screens with different rows of data on there.
Brilliant. All right. Well, you have a fantastic Christmas. You take care.
Yeah, you too. Enjoy.